Greetings, folks. This is Scott, and you're tuning into A Woman's Place, the podcast where we break down all the policies and politics that affect the 51%. That's right, women are half the U.S. population, and Ashley and I are here to give you the facts about how today's events are affecting them. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, Ashley Brown. Actually, today it's afternoon, isn't it?
It is afternoon. Good afternoon, Scott Osborne. Second time this week we've been
Yes. Do you want to say anything about the Women's Equality Day?
It was terrific. You and I had a little opportunity to recap, but I thought the energy was great. And I think the best feedback I've gotten is people saying how much they learned that they weren't aware of, which is kind of our whole purpose, right? So that was great.
And if anybody missed it, the link to the whole thing will be on the Women's Resource Center website. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think we'll include it in our show notes. So if anybody wants to have access to it, just easier to connect with. But yeah, and lots of good information, and we shared some follow-up data and links to those types of things as well. So, continuing the conversation and making it more mainstream, which is
And this was all sparked by celebration of the day that most women got the vote over 100 years ago. And thanks to League of Women Voters for really keeping this initiative going and reminding people. So,
absolutely, yeah. So it was great. It was great. So,
let's get
last time, what did we talk about last time?
last time we talked about government and how men and women see government differently. That was a very interesting kind of behind the scenes conversation. So it was really looking at some of the very, I guess I would say, practical reasons why women are more likely to see government as a benefactor, and men are more likely, in general, of course, to see it as a predator, as we say. So check that one out if you're interested in that topic.
Yeah, it was a good one. And again, it's a reminder of your perspective and how your perspective it's the lens you use to make your decisions and all of those things. And when you can understand somebody else's perspective, it's a good day.
It's a good day, actually, to understand where people are coming from.
Mhm.
So we might not see it the same way, but I can see how somebody in different shoes comes to their conclusion and their perspective. It's like, okay, I got where you're coming from. And that's
Right.
always interesting.
Not that we always
Today I'm
agree.
excited for.
Today's going to be great. What do we have on tap?
So today we're talking about women in the skilled trades, which is one we're going to define that coming up, which is one we've sort of circled around for a while. It relates to occupations, why girls go into certain careers. Is there or is there not workplace discrimination? But we're really looking at women and men in the skilled trades. And we have a phenomenal guest, Sue Hoffman, who I've known in capacity with another organization. And once we connected with this topic, I said, Sue is the woman that we need to talk to.
Yeah. And she has a great background and so much information. I think that listeners are going to really garner a lot from this conversation today. So tell us about Sue.
Sue is a workforce development consultant. She works actually now for the Equity Resource Center at Chicago, where there's a Women in Trades. And she's worked for Philadelphia Works, the city's workforce development board, for many years. I know that workforce development, under her leadership, she created outreach campaigns to bring women into the trades, to attract more careers, to be open to them. So I think she's worked on both sides, getting women to come in, looking at trades and how they can bring women in. And her background includes 30 years in workforce development, especially in this area with governments and not-for-profits. And a fact that I love, that early in her career, she was a trade worker and worked for a union on weatherization. So she's got it from all sides and it's just a wealth of information. So let's get Sue.
Let's get Sue in here. Arno, great intro.
I think Sue is coming from Philadelphia, actually. But I don't know that. I know she's often in Philadelphia. So Sue, we have introduced you. I think you're in Philadelphia. Is that right?
I am in Philadelphia, yes.
Nice to see you.
You too.
Welcome.
Thank you in advance for joining us. We are just waiting for this wealth of information and we're really looking forward to it.
Great. Yeah, Philadelphia is where we started the Women in Non-Traditional Careers project. And that's been a 5-year long effort to connect more women and girls in our region to trades careers, and it's one of the best practices that I'll be sharing on the show today.
I love it. So before we get further, though, could you define for our listeners and for Ashley and I as well, what do we really mean by the skilled trades? I know what I picture, but I just don't know if that's accurate. So can we talk about that first?
Yeah, absolutely. The definitions are always great. And so we mean skilled trades are the trades that require you to use your head and your hands on tools. So these are jobs in construction, manufacturing, transportation, utilities that require the use of tools, power tools, hand tools, um, machines, and equipment that you need skill to learn how to use those tools safely and effectively. So it could be plumber, HVAC technician,
HVAC,
welders.
heating, ventilation, air conditioning.
It is HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, heavy equipment operators, solar energy installers, sheet metal workers. I didn't know there was such a thing as a sprinkler fitter, but there are those people who actually install the sprinklers
It's
in the
all over.
ceilings of, those places. And there are elevator constructors and escalator repairers. So many, many different types of trades all across construction, manufacturing.
And I know in
Yep,
preparation for this, you talked about something I hadn't thought about, which was utilities. So things like phone lines and I guess all that kind of underground utilities that some of us don't even think about. They just come into our homes.
that's it. I'm going to ask that we edit this little piece out right now because I have mowing equipment outside and I have to leave the screen, come back, and shut my window. So hold on.
Okay.
I think we should
And
start over. Just edit.
no, because we'd have to do our bit, but I can let Ann know. She'll be fine.
Do you have a timestamp just to help her out, or
I
she
was
can
just
pretty early on,
looking at that.
just get the timestamp to help her
Got it.
out?
Okay, I'm back.
Hey, I have roofers working on my house today, Sue, so I'm waiting for them to start pounding and then the dogs start barking and then we do the show
Oh,
over
yeah,
again.
that all happens.
All right, we ready, Ashley? You got a timestamp? We'll start again. We're gonna be on.
Yep. Go. Yep.
So utilities often, the stuff that I don't think about that comes into your home, like phone lines, or I guess now it's all internet, that people who work on that is also skilled trades. Is that right?
That's right. Also, the line workers who repair electrical lines when there's storms, and the people who go down into the pit and repair gas lines under the street. Um, yeah, and the same thing on the streets with transit workers. If you live in a place where there are trolleys or rail cars,
Sure.
um, so the people who work on those and who fix the trains and the buses.
So I always hear that America's a service economy. How much of the economy is this work? Do we know? Some economists I know have figured this out.
Yes, yes. So if you just look at construction, transportation, utilities, and manufacturing, it's pretty close to 30% of the economy. Yeah. So it's not little. And women are really underrepresented in such a big part of the economy that has a lot of these high wage jobs that don't require a college degree. And so that's really why it's one of the reasons why it's such a benefit for women to learn about and enter the skilled trades is because there's real earning potential there and growth in our economy.
Well,
So
oh, sorry. See, Scott and I are like, we're not going to talk over each other, but are
no,
we?
no, Ashley, your turn. You go first.
No, but I'm going to actually toss it to you, Scott, because when we talk about occupational segregation, we talk about gender wage gap, we talk about that gap between overall asset building when we look at women. So I think this is right in line with a real big opportunity.
Absolutely, and especially I think as you mentioned, Sue, so this is typically, if I'm not mistaken, for women without a college degree, which of course is most women in America. So these are for, I'm going to say high school, but then some education on top of it, I assume. That earning potential is much higher.
That's it exactly. And someone can enter a skilled trade, especially a union apprenticeship with no college experience at all, just the high school diploma, earn and learn on the job and make a good living. Sometimes a little bit of post-secondary education is required, so maybe a year or two to learn machining or to learn welding or some of the other occupations that you can go to a community college for a shorter amount of time to learn and get into a trade.
Okay, well, in a minute, we're going to talk about why women are or are not represented in these, but let me just get clear again. So there's more women, I think you said, in construction than some other kind of stereotypical female professions. Is that right? Give us a feel for how many women are doing this work today.
Yeah, Scott, this is a great statistic that I learned and was surprised about actually, that if you look at the number of women in the skilled trades in construction and the number of women of people who are dental hygienists, there
Mhm.
are actually it's about 300,000-ish in the whole country are registered dental hygienists. And if you think of a picture of a dental hygienist, you're probably going to have a picture of a woman because 98% of those folks are uh, dental hygienists are women. And there are about 300,000 tradeswomen in the United States in construction. And so it blew my mind that you don't see many women on the job in construction, on construction sites, but many of us encounter at the dentist, we encounter dental hygienists. And so that's familiar to us in a way that construction jobs aren't, and yet the same number of women are in those jobs.
Interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, how about that? And
And
so
I
it
did,
really is about visibility. If you can see it, you can be it.
right. I don't
Mhm.
think I've ever met a male dental hygienist. So is that right? 98% are female. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
And the occupational segregation, as Ashley and I have talked about before, is one of the main, not the only one, but one of the main issues behind the asset gap over a lifetime, that women do not make the same amount over a lifetime because they go into different kinds of industries, also for motherhood and other reasons, but that's a big one. So can we talk about why more women are not represented in the skilled
Mhm.
trades? That sounds like it really needs some plumbing, if
Yes.
you will.
Right, right. So this is where uh, um, life gets complicated and clear at the same time. So clearly, one of the reasons why women aren't more, there aren't more women in the trades. And let me just say the percentage is 4%.
There's a
Wow.
So
lot
we're
of
not
skilled
talking
trades.
like of every worker in the skilled trades and construction, only
4%,
4% are women.
single digit,
Wow.
big
Single
time single digit.
digits. This
Okay.
is 2025, everyone. What is going on? So, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So your question is, what is going on? And again, complex and simple. The simple reason is more women do not know about how they don't know about this occupation. They don't think about this occupation. They're not encouraged to enter this occupation. The pathways into this occupation are not lit up, not clear, not um, uh, so uh, it's both the socialization that women get and the structural barriers uh, of not having awareness of that career, not growing up with it, and not having other people encourage women to enter those careers and those trades, and a past history of discrimination that women were not hired or retained in these careers. And so there are fewer women in those careers.
So we've got young women, I'll say young women, though maybe there's career changers later in life coming up who don't see those as viable or just don't even think about it, don't even realize it. And obviously, I'm thinking the flip side, we've got more boys and men who are moving up and seeing they've been playing with trucks or whatever it is, since
Mhm.
childhood.
Tools, yeah.
Tools, exactly. So they see that as possible. Maybe that's also what they see out in the world. And we've also got from the other side that some of these industries I'm hearing do have a history of discrimination, whether it's overt or implicit bias, kind of cultural factors. Is that right? It's kind of coming from both sides.
Yep, absolutely.
So, but one other thing I want to ask about it is I feel like we talk a lot about the care economy.
Mhm.
Women traditionally have to be mothers and care for the home, often care for a partner, elderly people, etc. And some of these jobs, are they hospitable for that kind of lifestyle that women have to leave? How does that look? Are they welcoming? Are they not welcoming?
Yeah. So it varies. Like any job, a woman with a family is going to have to figure out how does childcare and caring for others fit into um, their career and their and so these jobs are often shift jobs. So it does mean figuring out if you work a 7 to 3 shift or a 3 to 10 shift, how do you manage care around that? They're full-time jobs. It's difficult to do this work part-time. So again, that could be a factor. Also, many of a lot of this work is very early morning, and sometimes really early morning childcare is hard to arrange. And so many women in the trades have family support in order to manage childcare, or their kids are older at the point that they enter the trades. And the good thing is, Scott, that there are unions who have realized that in order to attract and retain women as workers, they need to have better family-friendly policies.
Okay.
And so that is good news. There are many now unions who are including family leave and pregnancy leave policies. And so it's more possible for women who are pregnant and women who have just had a child to have an income and be able to take time off and still have an income and keep their jobs. So that's been an innovation and the result of women advocates just over the last 10 years.
Well, good. And kudos to all women and you as well have been doing this work. Of course, I find myself thinking, well, things like retail, if you work in a shop in the mall, that kind of work is notoriously hard to plan for women. They'll all say, they don't know what they're
Hmm.
going to be working from one week to the next. So to be fair, and those jobs are often minimum wage, and I believe the skilled trades pays much higher, but there's so many jobs where it's impossible for women with a care burden to really try to schedule their lives and their care.
That's right. Yeah. And so at least with manufacturing and construction, you know what your schedule is going to be week to week,
Yeah.
month to month.
So talk a little bit about where there is um, discrimination. I mean, have there been cases? Has this been enforced? Do we have laws that really help protect women? I'm talking about the overt, not subtle. We all know there can be subtle things in workplaces, but
Yeah.
what does that look like today?
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that our federal government has implemented anti-discrimination laws specifically in construction. So there's a whole office in the federal government, the Office of Federal Contract Compliance, for construction contractors who get federal contracts. So the construction contractors who build federal courthouses, or they build, other kinds of federal buildings, or they just get uh, maybe they get a grant from the Commerce
Federal money,
Department,
right?
yeah, they get federal money. And so they're required to employ women and minorities on those workplaces, and there's a whole enforcement system attached. The problem is that the enforcement system hasn't always been funded or robust enough.
Mhm.
Uh, but the good thing is that it does exist right now as an infrastructure. And so those rules say that 6.9% of all work hours on work sites where the funding comes from the federal government, they have to be filled by women, 6.9% of those work hours. The difficult thing is that often there haven't been enough women, contractors have said, but we don't have enough women to fill those work hours. And so now we're back to the entry of women into this, um,
When did
yeah,
these
into
regulations
the field.
date from? And I apologize if you don't know off the top of your, I'm just curious, this is not a new thing.
Mm-mm.
No, when did those anti-discrimination laws come into
Approximately. Yeah,
effect?
yeah.
It was definitely in the, what was 40 years ago? So in the 1980s,
80s. Okay.
because I know tradeswomen in Chicago who got their first job because it was a federal building that required women's work hours, and that's why they got hired. They
Yeah.
got hired because of affirmative action, because of these work hour requirements. And that's often that's what jump started this whole movement of helping women connect to the trades. So
Oh,
the
no.
last 40 years, there have been some trades readiness programs to specifically to help women get into these trades careers.
So is it, I mean, I know that manufacturing jobs, I don't know about construction, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I know manufacturing jobs have declined in America in the last 30, 40, 50 years dramatically. Um, are these jobs scarce? Are they available? Is it a situation where we've got now people fighting over a scarce resource, the resource being the job, and then it's going to be perhaps harder for some people to get these jobs, or is it available? Can you generalize?
Yeah, those are great questions because overall the share of our economy that's been in manufacturing has dropped. But the skilled trades in manufacturing, there are still vacancies and there's still talent shortages in manufacturing. Every manufacturer, for instance, uh, we have a regional manufacturing association in Philadelphia, and they are always looking for skilled workers. I think people don't think that manufacturing is a good job or it's too dirty or there are a lot of reasons now why people think because manufacturing has been reduced that it's not a good job, but in fact, there are some very good jobs in manufacturing, in the skilled trades that pay well, and they're in demand right now.
When we say pay
Machinists are
well,
in
what do we mean?
demand. Hmm?
When we say pay well, what do we mean? I mean, can you give
Yeah,
me, yeah, what does that mean?
right. So we're talking about to start 18 to $25 an hour,
Starting.
and then with raises and career advancement, people can be making really good middle class salaries. So we're talking 50, 60, 70, $80,000 a year. If you're an electrician, you make $100,000 a year.
Mhm.
So again, without a high school, without a college degree, you're making these really substantial middle class salaries that can support a whole family.
Some pretty good job security, I would think. Sorry, I'm sorry.
So, and
Yeah.
something I just wanted to jump in on here of the training and some of the opportunities for this. And Sue, I'm sure that you have lots of programs in your region, but locally in our Southwest Florida, Sarasota, Manatee County, there's often apprenticeships and free trainings through whether it's our workforce development board, their technical colleges,
Hmm.
and so Women's Resource Center, one of the biggest things that we do is career development. And one of my favorite stories, and we talked about this, was a gal who came in and she was like, I don't want to sit behind a desk. I need to be moving, and I would not thrive in that environment. And there was a free um, plumbing program happening
Hmm.
at Sarasota Technical College. Graduated at the top of her class, and she's making six figures now.
That's
And
right.
and it wouldn't have been normalized. So I think normalizing the conversations about the opportunities for younger girls much sooner could make a shift in more women entering trades.
Yeah, absolutely. Exposure is such an important thing. And um, training our school counselors and others who would be advising young women about their career options is another thing that I think needs to happen. And occupational segregation can happen because of that kind of tracking that happens in middle school and high school. So our teachers and counselors really need to know that women um, eh, women can succeed and are really become valuable and talented workers in these
So
fields.
before we run out of time, there are other things that we can be doing and we should think about doing. You mentioned counselors in schools so that women realize these are potential viable options for them. Are there other things that stand out that we should be thinking proactively we can do?
Yeah, I think um, it's really about um, every one of us knowing that we might be carrying biases and trying to overcome those. So knowing that a girl's potential or a woman's potential is expansive and not uh, not allowing our preconceived notions to track that person's future.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love that one. Yeah, because I do think there's a lot of implicit bias. People don't often do it intentionally, but we do
Mhm.
have implicit biases that channel people from what was it that Deirdre talks about on the Women's Equality Day when you talk about math, girls still have this thing about math.
That's
Right.
right.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. Well, and
Yeah.
I loved your thoughts of if you see a young girl who likes to build things or that likes to do puzzles or those types are little indicators of like maybe that could be a trades or skills or engineering or something is going in that direction.
Yeah, that's right. You don't have to say, "Hey, have you ever thought of being a carpenter?" But if you notice a girl or a woman who, as you say, has a brain that is visual, that likes puzzles, or that follows a recipe or a pattern, that's like blueprint reading, um, and likes to be active, absolutely. Those are all indicators like, "Hey, have you ever thought about
Mhm.
doing a job where you're using tools and building and creating, because that's really what the trades are about. Every day you get the satisfaction of knowing that you've built something or you've created something. And there aren't a lot of jobs where you get that kind of immediate satisfaction. And that's a lot of what tradeswomen love about their work, in addition to the money.
I
Nice.
love it. And I will say, before we say thank you, Sue, because we could keep talking, we have in the show notes a couple of videos. I think they're both from Oregon and from other places of women in the trades that are really neat and talking a little bit about their journey and what the work looks like, in addition to some surveys. I will tell you, I had one of my daughters do the survey and she said, apparently I should be a stonemason. I said, oh, I love it. Cool. So we have all
Yeah,
those in the show notes for us.
I know.
perfect.
Terrific. Thank you so much,
Thank
Sue.
you
This
so
has been
much,
a
Sue.
great conversation.
Great. It's been great talking with you today.
Take care.
All right. Thank you, Scott. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.